Sometimes, in the middle of an ordinary night, you suddenly wake up, not because of a sound, not because of a dream, but because something hollow in your chest begins to hum, as if a name is being whispered to you, from somewhere undefined. You sit up and look out the window. The sky is pitch black, starless, yet somehow there's a faint glow in your chest. You feel like you're remembering something, but you don't know what it is. A kind of memory that doesn't belong to your mind, but feels like your soul once made a promise, from far, far away. A promise you've never clearly heard, yet your heart aches every time it stumbles close. Why did I come here? That question burns quietly inside you, never really fading. You are not the only one who has ever asked that. There are many souls like you, those who live with the quiet ache of not belonging anywhere, not because they're lost, but because they belong to something that hasn't yet been named. Maybe you've met someone for the first time, but their eyes feel heartbreakingly familiar. Maybe you've stood in a place you've never been before, but your chest fills with the ache of return. That's not fantasy. That is the sign of a volunteer soul, beginning to remember. Have you ever felt like you agreed to something before you were born, and now you're only just beginning to remember? No one said it out loud. No one told you. But there's an imprint in your soul, like an unspoken contract still echoing inside. As a child, maybe you once looked up at the night sky and quietly thought, I came from somewhere else. Not because you didn't love this life, but because deep down, you sensed you once belonged to something far greater. You carry something ancient with you. A gaze, a feeling, a question that keeps coming back. Why does everything hurt so much if my soul came here with love? That question doesn't rise from despair, but from the quiet fog of a soul beginning to peel back forgotten layers. Some call it past life memory, others call it a soul contract. But to me it feels like an old melody, a bell tolling softly from another dimension, just loud enough to make you pause in the rush of life and wonder, did I once make a promise, and is now the time to keep it? Maybe you once saw a symbol, a door without a handle, a misted mirror, a stranger's eyes in a dream, and your heart clenched, not from fear, but from recognition, a memory stirring, whispering, you chose this place, not because you were pushed, but because you volunteered to fall. You are a volunteer soul. No one gave you that title. It simply rises, quietly, unmistakably, like an invitation from within. It's time to come home. There is a strange phase that almost every awakened soul goes through. A stretch of darkness where there is no light, no direction, nothing familiar left to hold on to. It's not simple despair. It's a dismantling, a removal of every identity you once believed yourself to be. You might find yourself sitting in a room full of laughter, music, and lights, yet feel completely absent. As if your soul is standing outside your body, watching a life you once played far too deeply. And that's when the question slices through like a quiet blade. If I'm not all of that, then who am I? You look back at your past, the jobs you once took pride in, the relationships you thought were destiny, and realize none of them fit anymore, not because they were wrong, but because your soul has outgrown the shell that once held it. When a soul is about to enter a deeper layer of its journey, everything around it begins to fall away, not as punishment, not as a loss, but as the echo of remembrance. You may go through a rupture, a separation, an illness, a betrayal of trust, and suddenly, nothing holds you upright the way it once did. The world you knew collapses. Quietly, and in ruins, you find yourself, bare, unguarded. No more name, no more role, no more function to cling to, only you, facing a part of your inner night you've never dared to touch. You were taught that darkness was something to avoid. But now, as all the lights fade, you begin to see another kind of light, the one that glows from within. You may not yet understand what it is. You only notice that, as the roles dissolve, as the people you once walked with take a different path, as something begins to rise quietly in the space they leave behind. A feeling, vague yet undeniable. I am not disappearing. I am shedding. If you are in that moment now, where the winds tear through everything that once felt certain, then you are not lost. You are standing at the threshold of a new layer of your soul. There's an ancient concept that Carl Jung once described as the night sea journey. No map, no lighthouse, only a solitary soul drifting through the deep ocean of consciousness, not knowing where the shore is. And no one left to call your name. This is not a nightmare. It's a baptism of the soul. You no longer know who you're living for or why. Each day passes like a silent song without melody or rhythm. The doors outside have all closed, but the one inside, you've never dared to enter, not because you didn't want to, but it can't be opened by hand. It only opens when you stop running from yourself. In that darkness, you might feel insane. You might cry even though no one has hurt you. You might hear an old song and collapse, not because of the music, but because it touches a memory you never knew you were carrying. And then, you'll begin to dream. Not ordinary dreams, but symbolic ones, haunting and repetitive. A house with no entrance, a burning forest, a mirror with no reflection. Jung called it the language of the unconscious, not meant to be decoded, but to be heard. You may dream of falling endlessly. No one to catch you, no one to explain. And within that free fall, you begin to realize the darkness is not where you were abandoned. The darkness is where your soul begins to rewrite itself. You may be going through what's known as the night of the soul, a state Eckhart Tolle once described as the collapse of a perceived meaning in life, an invitation to move to a deeper state of being. You'll want to quit. You'll think you're lost. You'll question everything you once believed. And yet, if in that moment you dare to stop running, stop explaining, you finally hear the first whisper from your soul. Thank you for not abandoning me. No one can rescue you from this darkness, because this is not a place meant to be rescued from. It is the place where you return, where do you remember, and where you begin to live, as a soul fully awake. One day, you wake up with a tightness in your chest, and you don't know why. Not because anything specific happened, it's just that something no longer feels like it used to. You look at the world and start to notice small cracks, as if the mask of reality is peeling away, revealing a different texture underneath, fuzzier, less defined, but somehow more real. You begin to notice strange coincidences. The clock shows 11:11 every time you think of someone. An old song plays just as you recall a dream from the night before. You open a random book, and the first line feels like it was written just for you. Carl Jung called this synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that can't be explained by normal causality. But to a soul that's awakening, this isn't just the universe playing games. It's a signal from something deeper, calling you home. You start remembering old dreams, a child abandoned in a forest, a city drowned beneath the sea, a road that never reaches its end. And soon, you're not just dreaming. You begin to feel the emotions of memories you've never lived. That's when past life memory begins to stir, not loud, not clear, but like a thin mist softening your vision. A stranger walks past you, and something in their eyes tightens your heart. You don't know why, but a part of you does. Haven't we met before? Not as a question, but as a quiet tremor that rises from deep within. You no longer know who you are in the old way, and you don't yet know who you are becoming. You only feel that something, some invisible hand, it gently guides you out of the cocoon of your old identity. You stop seeing life as a sequence of random events. It begins to look like a carefully designed map, where every pain, every mistake, every person you meet becomes a memory trigger for your soul to awaken. This isn't madness. It's the sacred process of being renamed. As the ego breaks apart, the soul begins to hear its true name. Sometimes, remembering doesn't arrive in the form of clear images. It begins as a strange stirring in your chest, as if someone just whispered your name from a faraway place, not to your ears, but straight into your heart. You're walking down an unfamiliar street and suddenly stop. There's no reason, just something here feels deeply familiar. The scent of the wind, the color of the sunlight, the sound of footsteps on stone. As if you once lived another life in this very place. Loved someone, cried, waited for someone who never came. Michael Newton, in his studies on soul regression, once said, "The soul's memory doesn't follow linear time. It lives like a door, one that opens the moment the right vibration touches its lock." And often, the deepest pain in this lifetime is the key. Have you ever carried a wound that made no sense? A sense of abandonment, betrayal, or being burned by something too immense to name? With no cause, can you find in the present moment? It may be the echo of a soul contract, a promise made before birth, that you would learn something with someone through love or separation. Not everyone remembers, and maybe you've spent years fighting the truth of it. But when you finally sit with nameless emotions, when you stop judging the emptiness, something begins when it rises. From the farthest corner of something, a blurred image of yourself. In another lifetime, you see yourself as a pilgrim wandering through the desert, searching for a temple that has long crumbled. You see yourself as a silversmith, forging something sacred, only to lose it. You see yourself as a child, torn from their mother, spending a lifetime searching for the hand that is no longer there. These are not just fantasies. They are emotional symbols of the soul, the way non-verbal memory returns. And the strange thing is, when you accept these images without needing to understand or explain them, they begin to shift into strength. You are no longer the victim of the wound. You are the one rebuilding the bridge between lifetimes. That is why the awakening of the soul often feels so lonely, because no one but you can remember what you once buried in the wind, the sand, the fire, and the water. And when you've gone deep enough, you no longer ask, "Is this real?" You begin to whisper, "I've known this before, but I don't remember where I learned it." There is a strange kind of pain. It doesn't come from the present. It doesn't belong to anyone. You're simply living an ordinary day, when suddenly your whole body trembles, as if it's remembering something that never happened in this lifetime. No one caused it. No one is to blame, but your soul seems to fall through a crack between lifetimes, where time fractures and fragments that don't belong to the now begin to surface. Carl Jung once wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, "I do not live only in this life. I carry within me an ancient river, dreams that are not mine alone." Maybe you've cried while listening to a piece of music without words, or felt your heart twist while standing before an ancient ruin, a place you've never been to in this life. That's not just fleeting emotion, that's resonance memory, stirring a deeper layer of soul within you. When a soul awakens, it doesn't just understand the present, it begins to feel memories that have no language, not just past lives, but the energetic weight of unfinished soul agreements. Some things you've labeled as psychological problems may be echoes from long-forgotten partings. A soul you once promised to return to, a place you swore you'd come back to, a sacred loss whose ache followed you here like a bittersweet vow. This is not mysticism. This is how non-linear memory works. Peter Levine, who studied trauma and emotional regression, once said, "The body doesn't distinguish between past and present. It only remembers what hasn't been completed." Maybe your deepest depression isn't an illness, but an invitation from a forgotten part of you, asking to be seen. The awakening journey doesn't begin in the light. It begins with the courage to step into the unspeakable dark. you'll move through nameless memories, touch images that make no logical sense. A room with a mirror that reflects nothing. A dry riverbed where you still hear water flowing beneath your chest. A map with your name written in a language you've never learned. And when you dare to sit with these symbols without trying to interpret, something strange begins to unfold. They start telling you their story. You begin to realize every strange dream, every déjà vu, every time you feel someone looking at you from within a call, a reaching out from the part of your soul that walked ahead, not to be understood, but to be remembered. And when you finally stop trying to grasp it and simply become present with its mystery, a subtle unification begins to take place. There is no more past life or this life, no more old self or new self. There is only you, whole, walking between layers of time, carrying light from memories that were never told. Across many ancient and modern systems of wisdom, there's a truth that seems paradoxical, yet strangely aligned. Memory is not linear. What hasn't been fully lived will find a way back, through emotion, symbols, and the body. Carl Jung, in Psychology and Alchemy, once wrote, "The symbol is the language of the soul, where what cannot be spoken still communicates through image." Jung believed that dreams, strange imagery, sudden waves of déjà vu, or emotional responses with no clear cause, are all windows into the collective unconscious, where the soul stores incomplete fragments scattered across time. Not everything you feel belongs to the current you. Sometimes what rises is the echo of something long forgotten, a fragment yearning to be seen again. In Journey of Souls, Michael Newton, through deep hypnotic regression with hundreds of souls, came to this insight. Much of the pain we carry in this life is the unfinished lesson of a previous one, especially when interrupted by sudden death, abandonment, or unresolved vows. That's why you may feel an instant connection with a stranger, or an inexplicable sorrow from a seemingly small event, because it's your soul responding, not your intellect. Peter Levine, in his work Waking the Tiger, focuses on trauma and non-linear time, said, "Trauma does not reside in the event. It lives in the place it got stuck in the body. What remains incomplete will return, not to punish, but to be fulfilled." Imagine a song stopping mid-note. Years later, that unresolved tone still echoes in your mind, not because you're clinging to it, but because it longs to be played to the end. In the same way, a soul that is left in resentment or without forgiveness or without grasping the true meaning of a lesson will unconsciously seek out similar circumstances in this life, not to repeat suffering, but to unlock the possibility of a different response. Clarissa Pinkola, Estes, in Women Who Run with the Wolves, spoke of symbolic memory this way: "The soul does not heal through logic, it heals through myth, image, and ritual acts." Not because we understand, but because, finally, we are touched by the sacred within. For many people, the repetition of a painful emotion often leads them to doubt themselves. Why does this keep happening to me? Am I doing something wrong with my life? But according to Gabor Mate, in The Myth of Normal, emotional repetition is not a flaw, but a signal from the soul that has yet to be touched. Your body remembers what your mind tries to forget, and that memory will keep repeating until you feel safe enough to return to it. Gabor doesn't speak from a mystical standpoint, but from a deep biological wisdom. The body-mind is always seeking healing, not through knowledge, but through lived experience. Rupert Sheldrake, the biologist known for his controversial theory of morphic resonance, also suggested, "Memory is not stored in the brain, but exists in a field of connection that spans across individuals, time, and intention." If this is true, then what you're repeating might not have started with you at all. It may be part of a collective memory field, a soul archive, and you are the one who volunteered to carry it forward, to bring it into healing. This idea is echoed in the regression sessions recorded by Dolores Cannon. Many souls volunteered to come to Earth not just to heal their unfinished memories, but to help bring closure to entire timelines they once lived through. So if you're struggling with a recurring pattern, don't be so quick to blame yourself. It may not be that you're doing something wrong, but that you are carrying something sacred back into the light. Repetition is not punishment. It is a soft, patient reminder from the universe. This part has not yet been loved. And every time you choose to stay, to not run from the feeling, to breathe into it, to hold it, to not turn away, you begin to dissolve the loop, not by fixing it, but by loving it differently this time. Because as Ram Dass once said, we're not here to be perfect. We're here to learn how to love through our imperfections. At this point, knowledge ceases to be knowledge. It becomes a lived experience. A place where you no longer try to understand, but simply be present. There is a flame, not a blaze, not a fire that scorches, just a quiet ember burning softly somewhere deep inside your chest. You had forgotten it, but every time life becomes too calm or too chaotic, that flame pulses again, as if to whisper, "This is not all there is." You may have felt it when you entered a room you'd never been in, but everything inside felt strangely familiar. When you heard a song for the first time, but the tears came anyway, as if mourning someone from a lifetime ago. When you looked into the eyes of a stranger and a part of you wanted to bow, as if standing before something sacred. No one taught you this. No book has ever been written about that feeling. And if you tried to explain it, most people would look at you like you were dreaming. But the soul doesn't lie. It's still there, outside the realm of logic, waiting for you to return. If you've ever felt like you don't belong here, that's okay, because you didn't come here to belong. You came here to remember. You don't need the perfect answer. You just need one honest moment. With whatever emotion is rising, maybe, just maybe, that quiet flame is flickering inside you right now. Sometimes the soul doesn't speak in human language. It whispers through a subtle itch in your chest. When someone walks by, through a dream image that returns again and again, a door with no handle, a rooftop with no way home, through a sound so faint, like the snap of a broken string. Just when you thought you'd forgotten how to play music, you don't have to understand all of it. No one truly understands the soul. They just stop resisting it long enough for it to speak. Maybe what you're looking for isn't in the answer, but in the question you've been too afraid to hold close to your heart. Questions like, why do I keep missing a place I've never been? Who's been holding my hand in dreams since I was a child? Why am I still here? If you feel like no one understands you, perhaps it's an invitation to begin understanding yourself. If you feel pulled again and again toward something ancient, something unfinished, don't be afraid. It's not the past binding you. It's your soul memory, gently knocking. And if after this video you don't remember every word, every idea, every image, that's okay. As long as something touched you, even gently, enough to make you pause amid your thoughts. There's no need to rush. Your soul doesn't measure in time. It measures in sincerity and in the silence you dare to keep, even when no one around you understands why you're quiet. Maybe you've been walking alone for a very long time, but if you're still listening to this, you are not lost. You are the one who remembered first.